Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to All Things Division 3 Soccer with Simple Coach and Jackie. I am Simple Coach, and Jackie is out asleep. So I'm going to let her catch up on some Z's, because I think she had a little bit of a rough night last night. So, today, week 2, 2024 Simple Coach top 25 men's teams in Division 3. Now, I'm going to repeat myself of sort of how a team makes it onto the top 25 and sort of how I judge the teams. And might be a little bit repetitive, but gotta, some commentary about it. So, let me just say this is my picks, right? So this is what I'm seeing. So the first rule to be in the top 25 is I have to watch you play. So you could have a splendid season going on, and if I haven't watched you play, I'm not going to add you. I just don't think that is the way I want to approach it. I think it's important to watch the team. There's a few undefeatables out there that I have watched that don't necessarily get maybe the love that you think it should be, probably because I just didn't do anything for me. I didn't think they were top 25 material. Second, I do grade on effectiveness, right? Like, how effective are you? I may not like the way you play, but if you're darn effective at what you do, then that says a lot. So I carry that. There's a third element to it, which is, do I like the way you play, right? Like, there's a personal bias there. Like, I do consider teams that the way they play or don't play. And then lastly, I didn't mention this before, but keep in mind, I try to look at the totality. Like, I don't take snapshots of a team today and say, oh, you deserve to be higher, lower on the board or not, based on sort of where you are, based on your record today. I kind of look at, hey, all of these things in the past, including last year. So, because I'm like, I want to see I'd like to see some consistency. Do you have some staying power? Because what you see a lot in the early, especially in the non-conference schedule portion, is you see teams, gangbusters, and then they go into the conference and fall apart. So with that brief explanation, again, my poll or my ranking, here's the top 25. Okay. So at number 25, I'm going to throw these guys into the hot stove. They had good wins against Whitewater and Grinnell at 6-1. McAllister, they weren't rated last week. So they have a midweek game against St. John's, followed by what I think is going to be a really tough match against Gustavus. And I think that's a game that will determine sort of their path, right? Which way they go. Also new to the ranking, and team that I just can't ignore anymore at 6-0, Dickinson. And why can't I ignore them? Because I can't ignore a team that made Messiah look really pedestrian and is undefeatable right now. So, at 23, at 4-1-1, Covenant College. Now, mind you, they're up a spot from last week. They had a loss to Rhodes and then tied Swanee. And I think if they want to stay in the rarefied air, they have to win. They have to win some game. They have to win the next game or two games, and then we'll see. So, okay. At 22, 4-0-1, I think a team that may be back from the abyss that they found themselves in last year, 2 years ago. 4-0-1, Claremont Mud Scripts. They defeated Wheaton. They faced Cal Lutheran on Wednesday. But more importantly, I'm still liking what I'm seeing on the field, and I think these guys have some legs. So At my most controversial pick, probably, and I'm right at 3-2, down 5 spots from last week. Messiah. Now, they fell to Dickinson in the last minute to lose 2-1, but they struggled throughout the game to impose their game on Dickinson. I mean, I'm going to say it's quite possibly one of the worst performances. I've watched them steadily over the last 2 years in particular. So or 3 years, and if it goes back further, maybe I don't know, but quite possibly one of the worst performances I watched. Not so much from the score, but just sort of their precision, accuracy, all that stuff. I mean, passing balls out of bounds, things that I just was not expecting. And then to boot, they lost at home 3-1 to Salisbury. I'm just not sure where to go with them. So down 5 spots. At number 20, they are up 3 spots at 4-2. Ohio Wesleyan, the Battling Bishops. They lost to Hope and Ohio Northern. And then they had a really good rebound win, I thought, against Otterbein, which I thought was really telling, at Otterbein. So at 19, Coach Carter Poe's Spartans of Case Western at 3-2. They lost to Trine, and then they had a win against Stockton. But on Saturday is going to be a very, very telling game against Denison. And can totally see them, depending on the outcome, will determine which one of them is or isn't on the top 25 as far as I'm concerned. Again, Case needs to win. All right, I think that's sort of where I'm at in my thinking with them. Like, they just need to show they can win. At 18, 2-1-2, the Profs of Rowan University. They had a tie on the road against a very good Cortland State. This week they take on Haverford, I think tomorrow, Wednesday. Today is Tuesday. And then this weekend they have the double whammy of facing Mary Washington and Christopher Newport. So this is one of those weekends, again, which way are you going? I think they're good. I think defensively they're going to make it really, really tough on both teams, but Mary Washington in particular. So we'll see. At number 17, up 4 spots from last week at 2-1-1, Occidental. They tied the Banana Slugs of UC Santa Cruz. Then beat Soka 5-1. They have, I think, is a big game for all. Is Occidental as good as I think they are? And then they face Caltech, who is always has been a favorite of mine for the last year or so. Can Occidental do what it needs to do, and can Caltech step up? Are they better than I think they might be? So, will be interesting. At 16, 2-2, they're up 4 spots. Williams, the Eves of Williams. I would say I was surprised. They had a big win against Amherst. They defeated them 1-0. So got to give them some credit there. At 15, 5-0-1. Gustavus Adolphus. They had solid wins against Bethany Lutheran and Loris. They have a tough stretch this week against Carleton and then away at McAllister. So they got a lot going on this week. That'll determine a lot. So at 14, 4-0, undefeatable. I'm going to say this one is not a surprise. How much is amazing, but they're up 3 spots. Middlebury at 4-0. They demolished relegation-bound Trinity 9-0. I'm not sure if it was a reflection of how good Middlebury is or how bad Trinity was, but credit to Middlebury. So we'll see. At 13-4-2, they took care of North Central and Aurora, scoring 4 goals in each game. They are taking care of the business that they need to. They do have a big match on Saturday against Wisconsin Eau Claire, 90 minutes of hell, which would be a really good test for them and a contrast, between two contrasting teams. So, can they do it? If they can get through Eau Claire, then hey, maybe this is a Chicago that we need to really take a look at. There's a lot of teams like that where I'm like, man, just can we get a little bit further and see where we're at? So that's Chicago. At number 12, another one that I enjoy, even though it hurts my Purple Raider pride. At 5-1, John Carroll University, the Blue Streaks. Coach Dayon must be giddy about hearing me talk about John Carroll. Since they lost to Kenyon in that tight game, the Blue Streaks have won 4 games, scoring 12 goals, conceding once. Now, they have a big, big game. It's a future NCAC game as they welcome Ohio Wesleyan on Wednesday. Okay, so number 10, down 2 spots. I'm really struggling with this team. I think they're good. I just don't know what's going on. I think my patience might be running out. Franklin and Marshall at 1-0-4. They had another tie, this time against Elizabethtown, and they seem to be having trouble hitting the back of the net. But I'm wondering if it's a temporary thing or this is a serious thing. So I think the next couple games is going to determine a little bit of that and see where they're at as they start to Centennial. So at 5-0-1, up 1 spot, 90 minutes of hell, Wisconsin Eau Claire. They beat Bethel and then at home against Wisconsin Superior. And next up, they travel to Luther, the Vikings, the Norse of Luther. So, should be a good game. Next up, 3-0-1, another NESCAC, up 1 spot, Tufts University. They have wins. They beat Colby, and then they tied a pretty decent. I think Connecticut is a very, 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 very good team. So. And it's a NESCAC game, so it's what you could come to expect. At number 7, down 3 spots, Cortland State at 5-1-1. They tied Rowan and then were upset by Alvernia, who's having a pretty decent season. I think they're like maybe 4-1-1 or 3-1 or something like that. They have a big game against Ithaca tomorrow, and they're going to need to show up again and play. So just interesting again. This is where we start to see these teams sort of separate among the ones who really are on a path upwards, and then teams that struggle. So this is a team. I watched them play 4 times. I think Cortland is that good. It's just, again, can you deliver when you have to? At number 6, another NESCAC. Again, I think these guys can play 2-1-2. Connecticut College. They tied their first 2 NESCAC games against Bowdoin and Tufts. And then they face Colby away next. So it'll be a good game. So now on to the top 5. In the same spot as last week, because I don't necessarily hold it against them. At 2-1, the Mammoths of Amherst. I think the loss to Williams was a surprise. They play WPI in midweek, and then they face Middlebury. Both are going to be challenging games that they're going to have to deal with. So we'll see how they come out at the end. At number 4, team I'm, again, very high on, just from watching them play and sort of seeing the results at 4-1-2. The Polar Bears of Ohio Northern University. They had a big win late in the game against Ohio Wesleyan, and then they traveled to face Colorado College and tied them there. They're up 2 spots from last week, so I think the momentum is going their way. So, especially out of the, sort of they had a really tough start of the season, which, again, it's got to be one of the toughest schedules in the country. So, at 3, at 3-0-2, the Owls of Kenyon College, they tied against Franklin and Marshall, and then they tied Franciscan, which Franciscan was up 2-0, and they managed to claw their way back, which I thought was pretty impressive because it wasn't going their way, and they still managed to find a way. They're down a spot, I think, because of that, but I could totally see it just being a case of tired legs. You're just running through the gauntlet, and you think there's a game that might not be as challenging, and that's where you get caught. So I'm willing to sort of give it a look or a pass, but I was more impressed with the fact that they managed to claw it back. And I think actually we're gunning for their game winner. It just didn't materialize. The clock was their enemy at that point. Which leads me to number 2 at 5-0-1. Colorado College. Yeah, these guys I think they can play. That's up a spot from last week. They had a 1-1 tie against Ohio Northern. No, it was a good game. I don't hold it against them. And then they beat Emory. Turned around and beat Emory. And this weekend, the goal that they conceded against Ohio Northern and the goal they conceded against Emory is the first time they conceded all year. So I think these guys really, really can play. So, which leads me to number 1. No change from last week. They are undefeatable. Mary Washington. They had solid wins against my alma mater, Mount Union. Really, that hurts me to say. And then they beat Rhodes. So there's no change. I think they are playing they remind me the confidence and their ability to take on opponents and sort of get a lot of goals. Reminds me of what Chicago was 2 years ago when they won the national championship. Just that, hey, we're going to win this game and we're going to score goals. And I think Mary Washington is a lot like that. Friday they play Rowan, which is going to be really interesting because, you're looking at a very, very good defensive team going up against a very good offensive team. And so we'll see how that shakes out. So it'll be interesting to watch. It'll be like a 6-5 game or something crazy, which I don't think. But I think it's going to be a really interesting game and see how Mary Washington can handle that defensive posture that Rowan offers up. That is really, really, really hard to break down. That's it. Number 1, Mary Washington. There you go. So I'm going to post this to d3soccer.fans. So you can read it. I'll put it up there. I'll post it as on the front page so you can see it. By all means, agree, disagree. I'm okay with it. Down below, or shoot me an email. Happy to discuss. These are my impressions. So it is what it is. And lastly, yeah, so it'll be on d3soccer.fans. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, you know, feel free to subscribe to the channel. I do this every week during the season, so I'm sure I'm sure there's going to be a lot to discuss in coming weeks as things start to shake out. And on that note, thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in. All the best to all of you folks who are playing this weekend or in the next coming days. And yeah, we will talk soon.